What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Film Room here on Two Guys Watching Football. Today, we're getting into a guy that I think everyone around Ravens flock has some interest in. It's David Ojabo, edge player out of the University of Michigan. Someone where I think a lot of those linkages are coming from. Everyone loves a twitched up edge rusher, and obviously the connection with new defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald, who is the DC at Michigan. Naturally going to be connections. So we're going to have a little fun looking at two games tonight. We're going to look at 2021 Wisconsin and then 2021 Penn State. Two different games, in terms of competition. Wisconsin is obviously an O-line factory, no doubt about that. Not top tackles this year, and he had a really good game against their left tackle specifically, and then struggled a little bit more against one of his draft peers in Rasheed Walker from Penn State. So I think that gives us a nice little perspective. You can kind of see him in a top battle, and then in a good game, and then not necessarily struggle, because I don't want that to be the impression, but he's playing against a guy that gives him a better, harder matchup in Walker. And then I think everyone saw the Walker hump that went viral on Twitter today when he finished a guy, and then got down there and gave him the business. So that's interesting to see a big, powerful tackle out of Penn State. So let's get right into it. Let's start off with a little bit about Ojabo. So listed 6'5", 250-pound outside linebacker from the University of Michigan. He's your prototypical size. He looks like he has a phenomenal wingspan on him. Tony, I know you're in the chat on YouTube, and I know you're into the arm length. He's going to likely measure in with a big wingspan, good arm length. You can see it on tape. He's long, lanky, twitchy, but still has some good strength to him. So he actually has a really cool upbringing story, and I always find these so interesting. So, like, for context, like, I was born and raised an hour from where I live now, so I haven't really been far from home. Ojabo's may as well be the opposite. So he was born in Nigeria and moved to Aberdeen in Scotland with his family in 2007 when he was 7 years old. Before he came to the U.S. and attended Blair Academy in Blairstown, New Jersey when he was 15. So born in Nigeria, moves to Scotland, weird kind of connection there, and then ends up in the U.S. At 15. And interestingly, it leads to our second Ravens connection. When he came to the U.S., he came to play basketball, but after seeing what fellow pupil, now Baltimore Raven Odafe Owe, who he mentions quite a bit in interviews, was able to achieve on the football field, he asked to try out for the football team. So when he came to Blair Academy, it was as a basketball player. He wasn't kind of taking off, and he saw what Owe could do. And then, he asked to try out. So interesting. There's that Nigeria connection. Justin Madubuike also has roots in Nigeria, if I remember correctly, or I can't remember if it's Nigeria or Cameroon, but similar connections. And then, so despite knowing virtually nothing about the game at the outset, he made huge strides while he was playing in high school. And before taking the field, he actually had an offer from Rutgers, who was willing to make an offer based on just the type of athlete he was. And then offers from the likes of Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame came in, top, highly sought out 4-star recruit. He ends up committing to the University of Michigan. While at Michigan, he didn't see any action as a true freshman. In 2019 and 2020, he mostly played special teams with a few snaps at linebacker. I think he had like one tackle as a linebacker. And then what was interesting, though, is as I was listening to him talk more in interviews, he talks a ton about that time spent on the scout team. And it's interesting because you see some of these top recruits come in, you see guys that are, guys that are going to become first-round draft picks, like I think we all think Ojabo is going to. And you don't usually hear them reflect on their time on the scout team. But what he talked about was learning in a backup role from guys like John Yush and Kwity Paye. So, he's a real student of the game. He played under those guys at Michigan, and he really took that to heart. I can't remember the name of his linebacker coach that he's working with right now in the off season. But he's one of, he's kind of like the he's up there with like the Duke Mayweather for offensive line. So he's working with a top guy, getting ready for the draft, which is always good. But that brings us to 2021 as a starter opposite Aiden Hutchinson. He collected 35 tackles, 12 tackles for a loss, 11 sacks, 5 forced fumbles in 5 different games. That's almost a forced fumble in half of his 2021 games. And we're actually, I think we see 2 tonight. I think he had 1 in each game. So those numbers helped him earn a second-team All-American nod in addition to being a second-team All-Academic. So, this is where I kind of want to start and just do a brief little chat on. Obviously, it's just me tonight, so I don't have anyone to kind of get their discussion points on. But it's always interesting with first-round draft picks. Usually, you want to see that kind of production that's carried over years. And Ojabo doesn't have that. He's kind of the one-year wonder. And it's funny because he went from having no snaps to 11 sacks and 5 forced fumbles. And then we just drafted a guy last year that everyone was concerned about, and he had 0 sacks in his last year with Owe. So it's always interesting to look at how do we measure that. But I think the big thing I would say is with a guy like Ojabo, if you're taking him at 14, a mid first round pick, you're betting on the traits that he possesses. And those traits are high level. He has a lot to his game that is going to be very intriguing. I mentioned he talked about watching guys like Oosh and Kwity Paye, and sometimes you see him not so much in the 2 games we're going to look at, but he'll do a pass rush move, and it just looks like he's experimenting out there. And so he watches these guys, he picks up on what they're doing, and he tries to apply it to his game. So I absolutely love that about him. I think he's just scratching the surface of what kind of football player he can be. And we have a comment here. What's his 40 time probably going to look like? Over under 4.43. He has insane burst. I don't know if he'll go under 4.43. But it's going to be a good time relative to his peers. Probably in that 4.5. Maybe high 4.4 range. But he's going to run fast. I think he's going to test extremely well. So with that said, let's get into the Wisconsin game. Let's pop it up here. So again, I'm doing this alone. So if you guys have comments, I'll keep kind of checking in on the chat. Feel free to throw out commentary. If you guys have thoughts, throw them out. If you want for questions, obviously drop them in. I'll get to them. But I'll probably do all the questions at the end when we wrap up kind of his profile. Just gonna skip ahead here. So we're going to be looking at, a mixture of run and pass plays as always. Tried to focus more on his pass rush, especially in the Penn State game. We'll do later, but I did want to show some of his run defense too. I think we missed the arrow. Hold on. So the arrows always help you guys see what you're looking at. So this one, obviously, ball comes out quick. There was a high snap too. But what I really want to show here was his flexibility. He goes for the dip on the right tackle here. That's Ojabo 55. So just watch how low he can dip here as he turns the edge. So that's that kind of dip you want to see. Obviously, there's no ability to make a play on the ball because the ball came out, but you can see he kind of gets that dip past the set point. So he's right tackle's reading inside outside like he's supposed to. So I think that helped him it helped Ojabo because he took a more of a narrow set. But you can kind of see that upfield burst. He's already getting kind of lateral with him, and then as that hand comes, he dips right there. And you see that. What I like there is you see that right hand come up, right? Because as that punch comes through, if you're going to dip and bend the corner, you want to hit that hand up so that you're kind of dipping under their outside shoulder. So again, doesn't make a play on the ball or on the quarterback, sorry, but shows a good upfield burst. He tracks the set point of the offensive tackle really well, uses a good bit of flexibility to dip, and then uses that hand to get up there. So, nice little pass rush rep, even though it didn't really result in a pressure or anything, but wanted to show that. I think we see a bit of a sloppy run D here. So yeah, this is with his hands in run defense. I keep seeing him blanketly described as a bad run defender, and I mean I think there's definitely technically things he needs to fix. In terms of some of the core requisites you want to see him have, things like strong anchor, that sort of stuff. I actually think he has a good bit of that, so that he can develop that skill set. But there's times where he's hesitant with his hands, or his hand speed isn't quite up to par. It almost looks like he's hesitating. So what he does here, you'll see him kind of lean in with his shoulder. So he's got the pulling guard. I think this is actually a counter. It's counter or trap. The guy's coming to kick him out here, and so what he does is, you see right here, he gets down and he braces with his left shoulder, and so that's an easy rep to kind of seal him on there. So that's something he's going to have to work on, getting a little bit more active with his hands, going into that contact point. So wanted to show that. I don't think it was a significant concern, but sometimes where thought he was struggling with his hands, you see some of these shoulder checks right there. He was trying to lean in just to brace the contact, try and kind of set the edge. So I get it, but ideally you want to see him, use his hands, keep the guy off his chest. He has phenomenal length. So something to keep an eye on. I think we get a better look at the type of length he can use as a run defender here. So he's on against the left tackle here. So yeah, it's going to be split zone. You see 84 cutting across to hit Hutchinson. Zone left. See him kind of see right there. He's got the long arm out. He's got his hand up under that right shoulder pad of the left tackle. And that's a good rep there, because he's just kind of maintaining the edge. He wants to set the edge, force that cutback into his interior defenders. But see right there, his hands are out, and then boom, jolts. Quicker, decisive, strong hands. You see the length there. So if he's going to have reps like that as an edge defender, I mean, that's what you want. I don't think he got kind of into the left tackle's shoot here, and it's not like he got a ton of movement on him, right? He's kind of moving laterally with him in case he does try and cut outside. He can kind of get out there, use his burst into him. So you kind of see the difference in how he uses his hands, and you can see that great length he has. So that's what I mean. He has some of those requisite tools that he can put together to really develop that run ability. Now I think we get into a nice little speed rush here. Top of your screen. Yeah. I think he gets that sack. Yeah. So this is what you're looking for David Ojabo. So we kind of saw this earlier. It's going to be speed rush. He uses his dip and bend. He actually takes a chip from the tight end. Well, not really a chip, but the tight end kind of gets in his way. So even after that, you see him attack that 45 set from the left tackle, and he's just typical speed rush. Not a whole lot to it. He's just going to. You see him take the outside step there, and this is what you want to see. That left hand goes under his arm, and he just bends around. He's too athletic. I've been there when I played O-line. Some guys are just too athletic, and your kick step can't get to them. You kind of see him throw that left hand back to seal, and he gets in there and gets the sack. That's the type of athleticism that he brings to the table as a pass rusher. It's just, even as he takes here, boom, nice little bend. He turns that corner easily. He's able to kind of plant that right foot of his, if I can get it frozen on it, when he turns the corner. You can see the kind of flexibility he has to stick his leg and then make that turn right there. I kind of missed it, but you see what I mean. So again, good upfield burst, reads the set point, sees it, dips under it. That one wasn't as bendy as the one we showed before, but he's able to get under that rush and make a play directly on the quarterback. So that's really what his bread and butter, I think, is going to be as a pro. One of those, true speed rushers. I think we see a bit of a backside pursuit here in run defense. See, and I like that. Makes play on the ball. This is what I want to see. We saw this quite a bit against some of the zone we saw, particularly in 2020. I noticed this quite a bit with a guy like Jalen Ferguson, who doesn't quite have the athleticism. So when you're on the backside of zone as an edge player, you want to hug that line of scrimmage and move laterally down the line of scrimmage, staying parallel. You're taking away the cutback lane, but also, you're able to make a play if they do cut back. And so you'll see it right here. So, use the white line as roughly the line of scrimmage. Just shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Sees him cut, boom, make the play. So he's got that athleticism and that burst to make those plays on the backside. But I like how you see him stay square to the line of scrimmage and just shuffle. So pretty good there. I think he's probably going to be a better run defender on zone runs than he is on gap, just because he has that athleticism. I mean, he can kind of sidestep guys, he can keep guys trying to reach. It's going to be very hard to reach him if he reads your block and they're trying to get to your outside shoulder. So something to keep in mind there. More run here because I know everyone came to see Ojabo's run defense. There, he's using his hands there. That's what we want to see, folks, right there. Use those arms, read, react. So see how much quicker he gets out there. He stays square. Again, that hands up. He's pushing that inside hand up of the offensive tackle, and he's reading outside right here. He sees him cut, boom, make a play directly on the ball carrier. So again, when you're looking at the tools that he possesses to kind of develop a more consistent, because I think there was quite a bit of talk about he came off the field against, I forget which team it was. It was whoever they played in the college playoff. He came off the field for run snaps. I actually don't have the tape on that one, so it could be very true, and there could be a great reason why. But that's kind of why he's being dubbed as a poor run defender. Again, I think he's got some traits here to really develop that skill set. Good length. Uses his hands well when he does use them. It's more about developing fast hands, getting a little bit more violence, and getting rid of that hesitation. It's just you want to see his hands pop out. So I think that can really come with a little bit of development. I think he actually slips on this one. Yeah, you see him slip there. Banana peel. Someone dropped it on the Mario Kart track. But upfield burst here again, working against that set point. You're going to see him 65 kind of takes a bit more of a vertical step. He dances on him there. Uses the double swipe of his hands. It's a little bit of a different move. He's not just kind of bending under his arms. He uses that kind of double hand cross chop, whatever you want to call it. Double hand swipe, gets his hands off of him, and then starts to bend and unfortunately slips. So kind of what I wanted to show there, different pass rush moves, not kind of the same thing. Something you'll see from some of these raw speed rushers is just that tendency to try and dip every time. I'm going to just try and run around you basically. But what we want to see from a guy like Ojabo is mix it up. So he uses that hesitation, gets him to kind of throw his hands out. Once he throws his hands out, double swipe and around. So, don't want to see him fall. They end up getting a completion. But, again, mixing it up a little bit there in terms of a pass rush arsenal. Yeah, so this is just insane. He goes unblocked on this one. He actually has a play like this against Penn State that we're going to look at, where the tackle messes up. It's a play action that the tackle must have thought was a zone play action, and he leaves Ojabo completely unblocked. He ends up getting a sack on the play. But look at his explosiveness. So see, no one blocks him. They slide this way. So he's left unblocked. Ball's got to come out. It's just that explosiveness to get that QB hit there. That is boom, 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 boom. He shot out of a damn cannon. So I just wanted to show kind of his freaky athleticism there, because once he sees it, he just he takes off like he's hungry. Okay, so 7 comes down. You see, right? I want to show this before we switch the angle. We may not be able to see it well on the other angle. So Wide receiver is going to crack down. This is going to be a designed swing pass to the running back coming out to the left here. So all the wide receivers doing is trying to crack down on Ojabo as the play side edge defender. So you see him right there. Ojabo gets around it, but watch his like freaky speed. Like it's insane. So you'll see the wide receiver come from his right here, cracks him there. So, I mean, he's coming off of him, makes play on the ball. Freaky athleticism, that type of burst. You're not gonna teach a guy that. You're not gonna be able to develop that. That's impressive athleticism. Has another fall here. Kind of an interesting one in this game. Something I was hoping to get someone on to kind of get their opinion on. I think some of that can be getting a little bit too far upfield in your speed rush, and so when you cut the corner, you got to cut it really sharp. Cutting it sharp kind of just lends to it. Also, yeah, I see like. So again, he tries to use that right hand to kind of hit a chop on his hand. See it come over there, and then he bends up, and he's around, but he's kind of too deep in the pocket. So as he turns the corner, with the tackle riding him, he's just he's got no balance. He's pretty much putting his entire force into that left foot to make that turn. So something to keep an eye on. I didn't notice it a ton in the other game, but I think he just gets too far upfield when he goes to make that turn. And this was a better play by that left tackle. He just kind of read it. Didn't read it. He just kind of flipped his hips to ride the inside shoulder right there. So better rep for him, for the tackle, I mean. And then I think 828, this is where we get the highlight. So there he is, top of your screen. And he just gets that ball out. That one reminded me of the Owe punch out against Kansas City, where he just kind of got his hand in the right place. So you'll see him again, speed rush, bend around 65. See that left hand? He's doing that consistently, and I like that. He's using that left hand, kind of hooks him, and he pushes it back. So he's doing that to get that inside handoff. See how he's not as deep in his set here. As he's working up, he's kind of turning, and he's actually still got some space before he's hitting that white line where the quarterback is. So that's what I meant in the last play, where he's kind of getting a little too upfield when he goes to make that turn. So you see it there, and then his left hand hits it. It's just, good eyes seeing where the ball is. But I really like that hook there. Gets around, uses that athleticism. That's like, this tackle just can't block his speed. He's just too fast. And then, eye on the ball, recovered by Michigan. So again, 5 forced fumbles in 2021. Impressive. And shows he's got a knack for the ball. 5 in 13 games, I think. Like that's pretty impressive. But again, it kind of reminded me of that Owe strip where he just kind of got his hand in to the right spot right there. I think we got one more play in this game before we jump into the Penn State game. I think this is a bit more of a. What do we got here? Oh yeah, I want to show this. That pursuit. It's smash there. So I kind of said this at the start, and I didn't pull a ton of these clips because there's not really a whole lot to show with them. But in terms of some of those pass rush moves where he's really mixing things up, so you see him use a spin here, for example. And so some of it looks like it needs refining, but it was his ability to take these pass rush moves, put them in his arsenal, and then actually deploy them on game day was something I was actually encouraged with, even though they didn't always look great. But seeing him do that, seeing him kind of do that, I always call it the game within the game, kind of that tackle edge player battle that happens within a football game. You're using moves to set up later moves, right? So you kind of see it here. He's working upfield. So keep in mind, he's been beating these tackles with speed all day. So he's trying to work upfield there, and then he tries to hit the spin to come back inside. So there's some things I think he could have done technically here to clean this up a little bit, but it's just, having that in mind to use within his arsenal. I think that's an encouraging sign for how he can develop. And then, insane pursuit speed there. He doesn't get the sack to get the tackle, but insane speed. So that brings us to the end of that one. Yeah, Dan has a really, really, really good point here. Sorry, guys, I'm just getting to the comments. So I wonder if he has limited ankle flexion. We've seen some edges with insane flexibility. It's a good point because I think he bends the edge really well. But the way you dip, that's a lot of, when you're dipping under a tackle, a lot of that's kind of your knee and hip flexion. But that ability to plant that foot and put that pressure to kind of turn the corner, that's really coming from how flexible your ankle is. So it is kind of interesting because I think he has good flexibility, but whether or not he has that flexibility in his ankle would be kind of an interesting thing to explore. Yeah, Tony, you nailed it. Have to mix it up. Helps if you have an inside rip or an inside move. That's kind of what I was showing there at the end. But I think that's something he's going to have to develop a little bit. I think he could use a long arm a little bit better. If you kind of threaten the edge and got them to flip their hips, hit that long arm with his right or his outside hand up against, and then he can rip and rip under. That's one thing he could do. That's what I mean. There's so much you can build on him using these tools. Jay asks, how is he compared to, say, Yannick, who's a pass rush specialist but struggles against the run? That's a really good question. I think that's something I think you could see him definitely get compared to. I haven't really seen who they're comparing him to for a comp. Could definitely see it being someone like Yannick as more of a lower end comp. I think he's got higher level tools. He's just got that freaky athleticism. Yannick was always kind of a one-trick pony. He was a speed rusher, and he'd use that cross chop, which I forget. I think it was Brandon Thorne had a study on it where something like I want to say 70% of his sacks one year came using cross chops, which is good. It's good to have that home move that you can deploy often. But I think he can put a little bit more in his arsenal given his freaky athleticism. But in terms of finding a comparison, Yannick makes sense. I think people are going to be concerned about his ability against the run. I still think, and I feel confident he can develop that part of his game. I mean, it's one of those things where with him, you got to remember he's so young in his involvement in football. So, he's still developing. He's got a ton of tools to build on, and, better coaching, more coaching, he's just going to get better. So, I think he's going to be able to develop that run D. I really like to see those plays where he uses his hands well. I'm not sure how many we have in this game. Rasheed Walker would be a good one to see it against because he's a bigger, more powerful tackle. And so, kind of an intro into this game. I think he struggled a little bit more in this matchup with Walker. Walker is a bigger dude, but he's got really, really good set points, and he uses his length really well. He's kind of got that. I only compare everyone to Orlando Brown Jr. because I watched him so closely when he was with the Ravens. But what he did so well is he found a set point, used his length extremely well. So pretty much anytime I see a bigger tackle that's kind of less athletic do it, I'll be like, oh, that kind of looks like Orlando Brown Jr. I'm only doing that because I'm so used to watching him. But, you'll kind of see him use his length in this game. He'll find his set point a lot quicker than where that Wisconsin tackle struggled a little bit more. So in terms of seeing how the leap's going to go into the NFL where you're playing against better tackles on a weekly basis. That's why you can't just show up in the NFL and try and use a speed rush dip every single time. You got to have a pass rush plan. So in that respect, that's where I really like what I've seen from Ojabo in terms of how he'll mix it up. He'll deploy tools. I think Tony nailed it. I think he needs to have a bit of a better inside counter pass rush arsenal, but I think that's something he could really, really develop. Ravens were okay taking developmental player like Owe because he had a high floor as a run defender. It sounds like Ojabo doesn't have this floor. Do you think that makes him a riskier first-round pick? That was always kind of the funny part about Owe. I never really saw Owe as a huge risk. His run D was so solid that it's like, worst case scenario, and he's so much more athletic than Courtney Upshaw, but it's kind of that Courtney Upshaw edge role, right? Where at least he's playing early downs as an edge defender, setting the edge and doing that. And maybe he comes off on third downs. Obviously, Owe has already exceeded that as a rookie, showing that pass rush ability. So I guess you could look at Ojabo as being a little bit riskier because he doesn't have that floor, but he has freakish, and I'm talking freakish upside because of his tools. Yeah, he's got length and athleticism that you just can't teach guys. And his ability to develop in such a short period of time, some of these pass rush moves, put him in his arsenal, I think is really impressive. So let's jump into Penn State. 46. This will be his first one against Walker. Yeah, so I didn't like this one. You guys will see it on the other angle. His hands come in really low, and he just kind of leaves his chest exposed. It was kind of a weird rep. I didn't see a ton of this where he kind of ran straight at him. You see him here. You kind of see him coming with his hands, but his hands are hesitant. So you guys kind of heard me talk about hand speed in the last video. A lot of those comments in the last video are coming from this game. I found his hands were a little bit more hesitant in this game, where he wasn't kind of firing them out. You see it a little bit in his run defense too. He's just slower getting his hands on the player in front of him. And that's, you leave your chest out like this. It's just an easy day for the tackle. So when I talk hand speed, I think hand speed hesitation, that's kind of something he needs to work on. Yeah. Okay, so I think this is, yeah. So he gets this is why sacks need to be contextualized. So you see the sack here. So let's see what happens, because it's a play action pass here. See Walker cross here. And then my favorite part of this video, watch the left tackle and left guard right here. Watch what happens after the sack. See how they're having a chat? He's like, man, what are you doing? So basically what I think happened here, Walker didn't know the play. Thought it was, he takes a zone step, like as if it was like, an RPO bootleg type thing. In that type, we saw it on the last play where I showed his burst. You kind of saw the whole line take a zone right step, and it left Ojabo blocked, but it was kind of like a quick play action pass. Obviously, everybody else does play action footwork here. You see a vertical set from the right tackle. So Walker just didn't know the play. Obviously, he crosses over his left guard. Ojabo uses freaky athleticism just to burst. It wasn't a quick pass concept because obviously the quarterback did not see him coming there. So again, sacks have to be contextualized. There's not a lot to show here. You kind of see the burst. You guys already know he has that athleticism. But I just thought it was a funny play. I always love seeing this after the play when you have it and you see when a lineman screws up and they're just kind of talking. He's like, oh, damn, I just got him sacked. Yeah, that was basically me when I played in high school, making mistakes and getting yelled at. So he doesn't get the tackle here, but I like the adjustment. So again, game within the game. He's kind of, this wasn't too far into this game. Maybe we're almost through the first quarter. He's had some reps where Walker's kind of met him with a set point. So what I thought he did a good job here is he kind of threatens him upfield, gets Walker to flip his hips, and then he hits him with that spin move to come back inside. So here's an inside counter. So see, he's going to kind of bend him outside. He kind of uses that hezzy, gets him like that. And so the reason you would do that against a tackle is just try and get, once you come back to the outside of that hezzy, I want that tackle to kind of flip their hips into me and make them perpendicular with the line of scrimmage. So when they do that, I can do this and go back inside. So you can look at some of these things that he does really well and then look at technically how he could do them better. I think once he hits that hezzy, and kind of dips in and gets contact, he needs to spin right away. Whereas I think he hesitated a little bit on the spin here. So that's where I think so like right there, I would start to come back, and he's kind of takes an extra step upfield, and it makes it a little bit uglier. He misses the tackle, obviously there. Ravens fans don't want to see that, but I thought that was a really nice adjustment in this game to kind of see him do something a little bit different. He actually used it quite a few times. But that spin move actually, it's an interesting tool because from a speed rusher perspective, his ability to threaten upfield, get hips turning, and then hit him with the spin move back inside is super valuable. His spin move is just seems to come at the wrong time. So again, he has that willingness to work that into his game. He do it at the right time. He just needs some refinement in the technique of it. So I think you'll see it here again. So this is like a fake. I don't really know what he was doing here. I wrote fake spin move question mark in my notes. So he's against a right tackle here. So you see him, he's working upfield and he spins into him and then he kind of goes back. So I don't know. He kind of looks like he's playing NFL Street when you're trying to branch those custom moves together. So again, needs some technical work on these things, but he has the right idea because he threatens upfield, threaten. You kind of see him, the hips turn a little bit. I don't know if he was trying to do a fake spin and then bend the edge. I don't know how much I'll be teaching my edge rush guys that. But thought that was interesting because that's kind of two spin move attempts that looked a little ugly. So when you're looking at things like the rawness, I think that's got to be factored in here. This one, get a nice little run block. So he doesn't make a tackle, but I think this really shows his anchor. So it's just kind of a zone run to the right. There's that length. Use that long arm. Shows good flexibility in his lower body there. Holds his ground. Again, kind of that upside as a run defender. I think that's another play where you can see it. In terms of being a bad run defender, I don't think any of that's functional strength issues. I don't think he's not that lanky, thin edge player that has no muscle mass. And so when you get him in a run block situation, you're just going to kind of run over him. I don't really think that's who he is as a player. Going back to that spin, that was like one of those experimental spins too far upfield. You see what I'm saying? Like you see the willingness there, the creativity, just needs to implement it, execute it better. Something I started to wonder a little bit through this game is if he was a little bit more tentative because we've already seen it a few times. This quarterback can run. I don't even know Penn State's quarterback is. I don't really watch college football other than the draft. But he has a little bit more juice to him as a Russian quarterback. So obviously sometimes Ravens fans know this. You'll see guys play low gear. You'll see guys stay in their rush lane. We talked about this when we looked at Trayvon Walker a few weeks ago against Alabama, specifically because Bryce Young can move so well. So something to think about here because he gets hit with this. Well, let's play it. He's against the right tackle again. He's on the top of your screen. And he gets hit with that snatch. It was just a weird play. He was so hesitant throughout the entire rep. Like he looked like he was I see he's just kind of like working upfield. He's not really trying. He kind of uses that long arm out there, but doesn't really go anywhere with it. So I started, I watched this play a few times trying to figure it out. Then I started to wonder, is he maybe a little bit more tentative on the edge in this game because they're playing a little bit of that contained game with the quarterback. So all I'm trying to show with this play, I'm not trying to give excuses for him. If you're going to do this, do it like a Trayvon Walker. Get that long arm up there, hit it inside, use it, that post hand, drive him back, use a bit of a bull rush. You'll see kind of, again, hand quickness is a bit of an issue here. He kind of comes out and, that he's got his arms half bent. It's more like that, whereas you want to hit that long arm and extend so you can kind of use you can use that torque for you. He just hits him with a snatch and puts him on the ground. So you'll see that in his game. He's got a little bit of that he's got random plays where he just looks like a raw football player because he is one. He's at the top here. So again, yeah, this is what I was talking about with Walker, and you guys will see I'm going to do a film room on him alone. I'm higher on Walker than a lot of people are, but his ability to use his length and find a set point in this game was really impressive against Ojabo. You kind of see him hit him with that ghost hand, and then he just pushes him out of the back pocket. So again, is he a little bit more tentative, or is he just going against a guy that's able to meet a set point? You kind of see him try and bend that, but he had that ability to get upfield so much quicker against that Wisconsin tackle against a guy like Walker who's getting to a set point quicker. He has faster foot speed, even though he's a heavier guy. But I found Walker's ability to find that set point was really impressive in this game. Yes, I know, guys. When I watch, even when I'm watching edge players, I'm talking about offensive linemen. It's just my bread and butter. And then. Yeah, you kind of saw him on the ground again here. Interesting thing. It's definitely a theme that keeps coming up. Similar concept. Walker kind of finds a set point against him. This is where you'd like to see him kind of be able to mix it up, have some inside counters, threaten the edge, and kind of come back inside. I'd like to see his hands get a little bit more of an extension there. You see him try and use the rip under his arm right there. You can see his left arm sleeves under his that's a good outside move. It's just Walker has so much strength, so that once he tries to bend, he just bench presses him. So it's gonna be tough if he can't develop those inside counters. At the next level. I like what he's trying to do here. Again, I'd like to see his hands a little bit more violent, a little bit more, speed to them. I think he's got a lot of things in his toolkit with his hands that I think he does really well. I just don't think he does them fast enough. So that's kind of a theme that keeps coming up again. But then he's going to go out there and, so I think we could all agree he's struggling in this game, right? Like Walker's shutting him down. He's giving him a good go. Now he's on the left side of the D line against the right tackle, and he's going to make a play like this. And there goes that ball. And I think Penn State recovered it, but another strip sack. So he's going to make a play, even though he's having a bit of a quote unquote down game. Let's see this matchup against 79 here. So there. You can kind of see it here, right? We just saw him do almost the exact same move against Walker, where he comes up and he hits him in the chest, but gets those hands up again. He's not really long arming them. He's kind of got his hands a little bent, but then he hits that rip right under. So watch his right hand go right under the right armpit of the right tackle, right there. See how much quicker his hands are there? So that's the type of ability he has. Again, he's kind of doing the right things with his hands. It's like he's hesitating to do them, and that's why he's not consistently doing them as fast in every rep. And again, knack for getting his hand on the ball is really impressive. Let's watch that one more time. Interesting to see that so close together, just with using this, right in there. Boom, arm under, left hand down. Again, similar to that Owe punch out on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he just kind of gets his hand in the breadbasket at the right spot. Really impressive there. Look at that upfield burst. I just want to show that again. It's kind of similar to those other ones. Not a whole lot here. He's left empty, but just his explosiveness upfield is really impressive. Tough to run those boots against him. So here, the ball comes out, so there's not much there in terms of a play being made, but he uses a little bit more distance here on the outside. He's even set, both him and Hutchinson are, they're both aligned wide on him. And so he kind of attacks him from a different angle. And you can see him work more upfield here, right? He kind of, if I'm that guy getting, consistent reps where he's just able to shoot his hands on me really quick, I'm going to try and create some more distance so that I can limit his ability to do that. So, I think Walker still did a good job of navigating the pocket, but at least he's trying to adjust, try something different. But really, Walker's ability in this game to kind of find that set point and use his length against Ojabo was just really impressive from Walker's perspective. I mean, that's left tackle's job, protect your quarterback, and he did a good job of it in this one. I think this is another quickness in his hands thing. Yeah, so kind of the same idea. He's going to use that rip under the armpit of Walker here. Inside counter, which I like. We're finally seeing it. We're in the fourth quarter, but whatever. So again, this is why I wanted to see it early. Watch Walker's set point versus where Ojabo ends up. Right here. See how he cuts in? Now he's overset him because he used that 45-degree set to get out to him, and Walker or Ojabo was aligned wide like we just looked at. So Ojabo comes inside on him, which is what he should be doing. I just wish he would have done it a little bit earlier. And then you'll see his right arm come under the right armpit again of the left tackle right there. And so what I want to see is more violence and quickness in his hands, just more decisive hand movement. So I think, I've thought about this quite a bit, and again, not trying to make excuses for him. A lot of this is just being, green to football once it starts to click. But what I like is you're eventually seeing it in game, right? It's not just theory and all of that, but you can see Walker's set point here perfectly. He's trying to set him again. He's aligned wide on him. He's going to use that set. He's been trying to bend. If I'm a tackle, if he's just going to keep trying to bend my edge, I'm going to keep setting a little deeper on him. Get out there, and if Ojabo has quicker hands to kind of hit that rip under his arm, I think he's got a better rep there. But right idea. And then I think so. We got one more play. So if you guys want to drop questions that you want me to answer before we wrap this up, drop them in the chat right now. I think he just tries to hit him on a bull rush here. Yeah, this one was interesting. Hadn't really seen him use a true bull rush in either of those games, so it was just kind of interesting to see him put that into this game. I like. I think if he can kind of use more of his length, he kind of when he bull rushes, he kind of gets his head in close and he keeps his hands in like this, gets him on the right part of the shoulder pad, but he's not really using that long arm ability. So that's something where I really think they can build that into his game at the professional level. Good question from Tony. How long are Walker's arms? I actually don't know. He wasn't at the Senior Bowl, so he hasn't been measured yet. But plays long. That's why you guys hear me yammer on that arm length doesn't really matter. It's more about how you deploy it. He plays with good length. I don't really care at this point if they're 33 or 35 inch. I can say from watching that game, he uses his arm length really well after finding a set point. So trust the skill set. Look for the skill set. That's what matters. No, you weren't. You were not. Just kidding. So let's wrap up Ojabo here. A lot of interesting tools, and I know people are going to look at him and say he's raw. He struggled against a more pro-ready offensive tackle. And I get it. I get everything you're saying, but sometimes in this business, you're going to bet on a guy with high-level traits, and Ojabo is that traits-based projection. There is so much to work there. You're just not going to get a guy that's that long with that type of athleticism that, again, I can show you plenty of examples of him not using his length well. But he does have that requisite length, and that's where length does become important. It talks about, it speaks to potential. So, I think there's a lot he can do with inside counters. I think he can become more decisive, more quickness in his hands. All of that, I think his weaknesses are really clear. But the nice thing is if he did end up here, he's coming to a place where the guy that just worked for me here is also here. Some of this stuff is blatantly obvious that a novice like me can see. But then on the strength side, again, insane athleticism, really like his pass rush plan, his ability to kind of put things together in a game, try things was really impressive to me. For a kid that has only been playing football for not very long, don't know if he played before. He ended up making that switch once he got to the U.S. I couldn't really find anything on that, so I don't want to say that was kind of when he started playing football. But he wasn't playing it at a high level. So he's still new to the game. He's raw in that respect. But I said he's like a ball of clay, a very athletic, lanky ball of clay. And you're going to take a risk on those traits, those things that you just can't teach a guy. If he ends up in Baltimore, he might actually end up in a really good situation where he can be kind of, even as a first round pick, he can be a pass rush specialist kind of year one, depending on what they do with. A lot of that depends on Tyus Bowser coming back healthy. See how fast he gets back on the field. And that kind of comes to the point of do you want to draft a guy at 14 that's going to come in and be a specialist versus an every down player? And I get that, but I would just remind people to go look at the snap counts of a guy like Marlon Humphrey. As a rookie, he didn't start at the gate, right? They kind of had corner wasn't the top need that year when they drafted him, but they took a guy with really impressive traits and a high ceiling that played on a bit of a rotation. I don't think he became a full-time starter until his third full year. So even with a guy like Ojabo, if he's going to play, behind Oweh in your base, you can get Ojabo and Oweh on the field, especially with Madubuike, form that Nigerian mafia here in Baltimore. I think that's actually a really cool setup, athletic guys that can play with good bend. I think that's a really good way to kind of develop your D line. A lot of things you can do creatively with Tyus Bowser, play him as like, a linebacker over the middle, like we've seen the Ravens do. That's something that Mike Macdonald did at Michigan, where he kind of moved edge players into the middle to get more of an upfield rush. So you can use Bowser like that. You can get all three on the field, things like that. I'll jump into your guys' questions right now. Do you think Macdonald increases the odds of drafting Ojabo if he's available? I don't really know how much it would weigh in the war room. I would definitely say when you have a defensive coordinator that intimately knows a player you're looking at, like if he's on the Ravens board, having Macdonald in the room to kind of talk through, not even just his play, his work ethic, him as a player, those are huge endorsements. It's kind of like having, you're going for a new job interview and your old boss is working there. It's just going to give you more of an in, right? So I think it, in terms of odds, I think it actually does increase his odds. Doesn't mean I know a lot of people are like, well, McDonald's there, they're going to take Ojabo at 14 if he's available. I don't necessarily think that's true. They'll stay true to their board, but it definitely gives him a really good reference. And everything I've read about Ojabo's work ethic, all those, things you want to see, high level things, which is good. Pretending Ravens draft Ojabo, he's coming in on third downs, right? Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. I think he kind of comes in year one as a pass rush specialist. May not be that every down player. Would really depend, are they going to bring back Houston? What are they going to do on the Sam side? Is Dalen Hayes going to get healthy? Is Bowser going to get healthy? So there's kind of a lot going on there. Oweh can do a little bit of that Sam role. I think the Ravens are going to have a little bit of a different D-line too with McDonald. He plays more of that straight up 4-man line. So, a lot to consider there. One thing about Ojabo that I think is really important to note, I don't think there was a clip that I showed tonight where he's in a three-point stance, almost exclusively stand-up linebacker in the 2 points. So, there's even some things. You saw his athleticism. He could even do some of that Sam role probably. I don't want him dropping covering tight ends or anything. But in terms of, if you want to use him as a cover man in the flats, that sort of thing, he has that type of athleticism. Comment, I feel like Ojabo can be coached up and be elite in the Ravens defense. Yeah, he needs some work for sure. There's some rawness, but again, physical tools you can't teach are there. Are you more edge rusher first round and hope Falale is available in the second, or go ahead and get O-line and fill the holes as you go? Good question. I had this debate on Twitter today. Actually, I had a thread on it. You'll never hear me say you got to take X in round one. I think the later you get in the draft, you got to be a little bit more needs based in your picks. It's really hard to pigeonhole yourself into one position in the first round. I really feel like in this draft, I think those top three tackles are going to be gone, and then it's really going to come down to what is the Ravens front office opinion on Penning specifically, because I think he's going to be the fourth offensive tackle taken versus some of these defenders in terms of that best player available situation. So I think that's going to be tough. What's my preference? I have enough confidence in some of these second round graded offensive tackles, like a Rashid Walker. I would actually love to get Walker here. If he came in to be the right tackle, I'd be really pumped up. Big physical dude. But if you get a Walker, a Falale, who else kind of in that second tier? Those are the two main ones in terms of being a scheme fit, I think, for Baltimore. If you get one of them in the second round and you go defense, like an edge rusher, safety, obviously depends what they do in free agency. If you get those guys in the first round, I think you're feeling pretty good about your draft. So I feel good enough about some of the tackles in round two that I don't feel they need to take an offensive tackle in round one. Yeah, no, good point. Abe Lucas in round three. I'm gonna look at Abe Lucas here soon. I have a little bit more of an issue with his game. I think he's really stiff. I think he lacks a bit of an anchor. But you're also taking a guy in round three, so you can live with some of that. It's not necessarily that he's a bad player. I just got a little bit down on him when I watched his Senior Bowl and then jumped into some of his tape. But definitely some guys in round three. I would love a guy like Lucas. Who's the other cat? Max Mitchell at Louisiana Lafayette in a double dip situation. So that's one thing. I think if the Ravens go defense from round one, I'd probably be trying to come out of round three with two tackles taken. Kind of that double dip. I know it's high investment. That third round comp pick they get kind of gives them the flexibility to do that. Maybe you go tackle at 45 and then with pick 99, 103, whatever it is, that third round comp pick they got for David Culley's hire, they take another tackle with, maybe a tackle with a little bit more of an inside-outside game, but, double dip that way. You leverage that extra draft capital that you have to kind of get those two tackles because you didn't take one in round one. You didn't get that higher floor guy, so go get kind of two guys that you can develop. That would be probably my approach. That's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys are on YouTube, please like the video. Goes a long way in supporting. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. And if you guys liked it, make sure you subscribe. I'm going to be dropping these regularly. Football's over. I have no life anymore on the weekends, so I'm going to be probably dropping a couple of these a week moving forward. But anyway, be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Peace out, everyone.